Clay County, North Carolina, a small town with a whole lot of charm, where majestic mountains, breathtaking views, pristine water, and friendly small-town living are simply a way of life here. And whether you're a part of a family who've called this place home for generations, or you've recently moved here, one thing is for sure, we are all passionate about something at the heart of our county, and that is our amazing schools.
The mission is for all of our students to graduate on time with the skills they need and a plan for what's next of their choice. Not what we want them to do, what they want to do. Because that's when they get excited, is when they can focus on what they want to do.
I've been wanting to go to Princeton since I was a freshman, and I got in, and I'm really excited about that. And I think a lot of that is due to the teachers and the support system here, the counselors. I had people write amazing recommendation letters for me, and they really guided me through the process of how to get there, you know?
Even though I would work here, if this was the oldest building on campus, I do have the privileges of working in the newest facility on campus. It is amazing. We have space to grow. It's unique in that everything is contained here. We have our own cafeteria, we have our own gym. The safety is unparalleled because we are in a single facility that has, only designated entrance points.
My most favorite thing about this school is that all of our kids enter through this one door. And so I think that that is great because I can stand at the door and greet every student as they walk in the door, and I know who they are. And so because we've split into two smaller schools, we have about 250, 260 kids, and we know them all. And so each morning having an opportunity to greet them and check in with them every morning is one of my favorite things about Hayesville Elementary.
We were in a unique situation where our kids were internationally adopted, coming from different countries, different backgrounds and experiences, but what we look back on now and are so grateful for is that we had a faculty, a staff that went out of their way to make sure that our students were made to feel like they were just part of the family, they were just part of the community. And from the beginning, our kids have only felt like this was their school, their place to be and belong.
So at a larger school, your classes are broken down into certain mediums, so you might not get to take a painting class or you might not get to take a clay class, whereas at Hayesville, we cover all kinds of different mediums in the class. At the end of each semester, I have an art show that's open to the public where we display all the students' individual art, and we have all kinds of local artists and teachers from Young Harris College, the Folk School. Everyone comes out to celebrate the wonderful art that the students create here at Hayesville High School.
We have Gear Up, which is a great STEM grant initiative that we've been working on to really pull STEM into our schools. It's global initiatives we have working here on our campus as well. We have teachers that are going to Zimbabwe, we have teachers going to Australia, so we are global even though we sit here in Hayesville, North Carolina.
This is the 5th school that I've been an administrator at, and what really stands out to me about Hayesville High School is the connection between the school and the parents and the community. Those three things come together here at Hayesville in a way that I've never seen before.
One of the exciting things when the kids get to high school is that our school partners with the local community college. And so the students have an opportunity. They can go to early college there on the community college campus, or they can take classes remotely and work towards their associate's degree. So my daughter decided to do that and got her associates, and now has transitioned to Loyola in New Orleans and has been able to transfer those credits to that college program.
On our campus right now, we have 4 gyms. We also have access to our rec department. We have multiple facilities for practice for baseball, football, soccer, which that enables to have easier practice times here at Clay County Schools.
We offer almost 25 sports, men's, women's, JV level. We're very proud of that. So there's something here for everyone. We have success in most all of those sports. We have highly qualified coaches coaching these sports. We're very proud of their progress and the way they've maintained the tradition at Hayesville High School.
Our motto for our district, all students learning at high levels. That was here when I got here, and I thought it was the best motto we could ever have. I told everybody I wouldn't change that for anything. Because each individual student, at whatever they choose to do, we want them to learn at high levels every day.
What we've got here in Clay County is something special. These are exciting times for our schools, where the future is bright and endless possibilities await.